Hello, sweet friends. Today we're going to do a bit of a book haul of all of these spring books that I've purchased for myself recently. We've been getting ready for this international move, and every time we hit a deadline for sending in paperwork or checking something off our to-do list, I reward myself with a book, and that's probably not the best thing for my bank account, but it is great for my mental health. So I think that is perfectly justifiable.
As we continue on with the book haul, I want to take a minute to introduce you to the sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. There are many things that I do on days when I'm feeling a bit down or stressed that greatly impact me for the better. Buying new books is one of them, especially recently. They have been my go-to, although probably not the best as we will be moving to England soon, and the more books I buy, the more I will need to pack to bring with me. I also love slowing down to focus on a hobby or activity, cuddling with Gatsby, or watching a comfort film. But throughout the past few years, I've found the most lasting and impactful positive effect on my mental health has been therapy. I really love that BetterHelp is online based. Not needing to go into an office is a huge plus for me. They make it so easy and convenient to connect with a licensed therapist to better navigate life's many ups and downs. BetterHelp is your bridge to over 30,000 licensed therapists who are ready to provide helpful, unbiased advice. I know from personal experience that starting therapy can be really tough and intimidating, but with BetterHelp, you can choose the format that suits you best, whatever you are most comfortable with, whether it's a phone call, video chat, or text messaging. It's extremely easy to get started. You simply fill out a questionnaire to assess your specific needs, and then you get matched with a therapist, in most cases within 48 hours or less. And on top of that, if you don't really connect with your therapist, you can easily switch to a new one at no extra cost to you, with no need to worry about insurance hassles or network restrictions. One of the best parts is that you can then access therapy at your convenience, scheduling sessions that fit your schedule at whatever time works best for you. If you're considering therapy or just curious about how it could benefit you, click the link in the description box or visit betterhelp.com/Desi. That's betterhelp.com/Desi. By doing so, you not only support my channel, but you'll also get a special 10% off discount code for your first month of BetterHelp, so you can connect with a therapist and see if it's right for you. Thank you so much to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. Now let's continue on with the book haul.
Before we get started with the book haul, I have something that I'm so excited to share with you all. You saw these in the beginning of the video. These are book sleeves from a collaboration that I'm doing with the Bestie book sleeve. We created an English spring cottage book sleeve collection, which is crazy to even say that because I have loved her book sleeves for years. I have so many others, and now we're collaborating together. If you're new to book sleeves or don't really know what they are, they're like a cozy little home for your books. I personally take my books with me a lot out to the park. If you're going to a cafe and want to bring your book with you, book sleeves will protect your book if you put it in your bag or a backpack. I have one of these in my bags at all times with all sorts of different books in them. Rachel is the amazing, incredible woman behind the Bestie book sleeve, and she makes all of these by hand. We worked for days on finding the perfect fabrics and designs that would feel like high tea, country gardens, all of the soft, elegant, romantic cottagecore vibes. That is what we tried to capture with this collection. There are 3 different sizes. This is honeycomb high tea. It is the biggest size, and it fits all of your standard hardcover books. This is the next size down. This is a swan's tail. It fits all of your standard size paperbacks as well as some smaller, thinner hardcovers. I don't have the smallest size, but it will fit all of your Kindles and e-readers and mass market paperbacks. The collection is only available until April 7th, so you have about 1 more week. You're also supporting a small business. Rachel and her husband do this all themselves. So I will have the link for these down in the description box. This has been such a dream come true, and working with Rachel has been amazing. So I hope you guys go check it out and support Rachel because she is incredible and deserves all of the love and support and magic in the entire world. But okay, let's get started with this book haul. All of these books are so lovely. I think some of these are the most beautiful books I've ever owned. The first books that I got are these new Puffin and Bloom editions of Jane Austen books. They have Sense and Sensibility, Emma, and Pride and Prejudice out now, and I think Mansfield Park, Persuasion, and Aren't there 6? Mansfield Park. Persuasion. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot Northanger Abbey, which is one of my favorite Jane Austen books. But yeah, the other 3 I think are coming out later this year. I have 2 more classics. These are by Thomas Hardy. So I have Far from the Madding Crowd and Tess of the D'Urbervilles, which I haven't read this one yet, but I love Far from the Madding Crowd. I've been wanting these editions for quite a while. Tess has strawberries and chickens on it, and Far from the Madding Crowd has beautiful flowers and the cliffs in southern England and the blue sky. If you're also a cover buyer out there, feel free to let me know in the comments. Speaking of beautiful covers, this is The Lark by E. Nesbit. It's set in 1919. It's about 2 girls, Jane and Lucia, who are pulled from school by their guardian and set up in a cottage on the outskirts of London, and informs them by letter, because he's already gone and fled, that he has gambled away their inheritance and he has left them with £500 and a cottage to carry on with. And then, with the help of a handsome man, a war veteran with a green thumb, the 2 girls set up a market garden, which then turns into a guest house, which then turns into something else that we don't know about, but the book says we have to read to find out. It was published in 1922, a time of literature that I love reading. So I'm super excited to get to this one. And then I have a book by one of my favorite authors, Laura Wood. She always somehow combines historical fiction with romance in a beautiful, like, Great Gatsby, I Capture the Castle way. And she's just recently come out with a new series that involves more mystery. And this is the first book in the series. It's called The Agency for Scandal. It supposedly has the vibes of Bridgerton meets Enola Holmes. If you've read this series, I forget what it's called, but the first book is called The Clockwork Sparrow. I've seen this compared to that one as well. I've seen reviews say that it's very fun and comforting with strong platonic friendships and a cinnamon roll love interest. It sounds perfect. I just know I'm gonna love it. And the spine, I love the detail that went into the spine. I have a crush on this book. I could just look at it all day. Thank you, book designers out there, for making beautiful books. Okay, and then I have some romantasy books, which has absolutely been my vibe recently. I've been reading romantasy and then Georgette Heyer, or Regency romance, and then romantasy, Georgette Heyer, and it has been the best time. These 2 books have been ones that I have been anticipating since last year. The first one is Where the Dark Stands Still by A.B. Poranek, and the second one is The Head Witch of Foxhall by Anna Bright. I am currently listening to The Head Witch of Foxhall. I can confirm some of the other reviews that have said this reads like an old Disney movie, like Sleeping Beauty or The Sword and the Stone. It is a cozy fantasy fairy tale set in 8th century Wales. It has a medieval setting and it has dragons. It is a YA book and it starts on the spring equinox, so perfect to read during this time of year. Based on everything that I've heard for Where the Dark Stands Still, this is perfect for us Miyazaki fans. It's about a girl who makes a deal in a sentient forest with an immortal forest demon who is convinced he cannot love until he meets her. And I think that the love interest is very Howl-coded from Howl's Moving Castle. The reviews that I've read have said there's lots of yearning and incredibly cute side characters. From what I know, it's like Howl's Moving Castle meets Beauty and the Beast infused with Polish folklore, cozy but also dark cottagecore witchy vibes. Also, apparently there's a temperamental manor. It's full of everything that I love, so I will be getting to this one very soon. The romantasy series that has completely overtaken my personality, the Kindred's Curse saga by Penn Cole. This story is full of magic and balls and palaces and political intrigue. With the politics comes outwitting each other. There's so much I want to say that I can't say anything and nothing comes out at all. It is about these kingdoms and then the mortals. So in these kingdoms live the descendants, and they are basically children of the gods, but the gods have kind of forsaken them, so they're just kind of on their own. They are very magical. A mortal cannot kill them. If they try to stab them with a knife, it doesn't do anything. They are extremely powerful, and the mortals really have no defense against them. The descended really just tolerate the mortals, and some of the kingdoms are trying to eliminate them. The story follows Diem. She is a mortal, and she's a healer. Her whole life, her her mom has worked as a healer in the palace, and one day she goes missing. So then Diem takes over her healer position in the palace while trying to find information about her mom's disappearance from the royals and the gossip, and the fact that she has access to a lot of information that other mortals don't. At this time, the king is dying, and his heir, Prince Luther, is being oddly kind to Diem, which is strange because he has a reputation for killing and hating mortals. There's also this rebel alliance that is trying to overthrow the Descended that Diem has relationships with people in. So she kind of has a foot in both worlds. This is for us slow burn romance girlies. The first 2 books, hundreds of pages, all we get is kissing. And not even a lot of it within all of this. Haven't read the 3rd book yet because I'm waiting for the audiobook to come out. I have heard that there's some spice in the 3rd book. But even if you are a fan of spicier romance, this doesn't need it. I promise you, it doesn't need it. Being a fangirl is the best thing ever. Read these books. The first one is Spark of the Everflame, and then Glow of the Everflame, Heat of the Everflame, and Burn of the Everflame, which is the final book, is coming out in June. I can't rave about these enough. I will say though, the first book kind of had the same syndrome as ACOTAR. I felt a bit bored and detached from the story. The first book sets up a lot that makes sense in book 2. So if you're struggling with the first book, keep pushing forward. Book 2 is worth it. Next is a book that I picked up because I watched a YouTube video by Aya's Cottage. I hope I said her name right. The way she talked about it made it sound so perfect for springtime, and it is called Baker's Magic by Diane Zahler. This is a middle grade book, which I love reading because I think middle grade is actually for everyone. This is a cozy fantasy adventure. It's about a 12-year-old girl named Bee who discovers that she has uniquely unusual magical powers. And when her friend needs help escaping from an evil mage, Bee decides she's going to figure out how to use this magic that she has to save her friend. But this takes Bee on a journey, quite a journey that involves swashbuckling, so many twists and turns, and sweet treats. I've heard that the food writing in this book will make you so hungry, which is one of my favorite things in a book. And then this book is quite unusual, and I will explain why in a second. This is Saving Ellipsis by Laurie Dargalas. It has been translated from French, and from what I know about this, imagine there is a book that is being written by an author, and the author kind of gives up on the story and puts it in a drawer and doesn't really come back to it for a while. In his book, there is a town living in the pages, and since the author isn't going back to edit and refine and write more of the story, this town is taking care of the book for him. They go through and correct bad grammar, they add hyphens and apostrophes. It is this quiet little town that lays between the lines of this manuscript. On the back it says, unlike her fellow townspeople and their passion for all things literature, Prosperina Dash has embraced a career as a florist. But when she discovers a dead body at her shop and the foundations of Ellipsis start crumbling away for no apparent reason, she sets off to the capital in a desperate attempt to save her town from collapsing. Throughout the book, you can see highlights and words that look like they've fallen onto the page. A lot of illustrations. Sometimes it looks like ink has spilled. Not only does the story sound so cute, but I think the experience of reading it is going to be so fun. Also, I love her outfit and her apron and the flower in her hair. Basically, I would love to be her. You guys know I adore Georgette Heyer, and I'm happy to report that I have just read my favorite Georgette Heyer book, replacing Arabella, which was previously my favorite. This is Venetia. All of Georgette Heyer's books have romance. However, this book is Georgette Heyer's most flirtatious and swoony romance. If you want love in a Georgette Heyer book, pick up this one, because the way I was rooting for these two characters to be together was unlike how I felt in any other Georgette Heyer book. It follows Venetia, who lives in the countryside. She's literally met only 4 men in her entire life, 2 of them being her father and her brother, and her other brother, and then like 2 other guys. Those are the only men she's ever met. And then one day she's out picking blackberries on land that belongs to her neighbor, this Lord Damerel, who is a rake and she's never talked to before. And he mistakes her for a commoner. There's a little bit of an unsettling scene when he first meets Venetia. Their meet cute is definitely not cute. But after that, she gets to know this Lord Damerel, and he befriends her brother who has a disability. Everyone else has always looked at her brother Aubrey and just seen his disability, but Lord Damerel sees him for the incredible mind and scholar that he is. It takes us on this journey. There was mystery. There were twists and shocks in here that literally had my jaw falling to the floor. I was driving and I had to like rewind the audiobook and listen again because I didn't know if I had heard it right. If you're wanting to get into Georgette Heyer and you've never read any of her books before, I highly recommend starting with Venetia. And then I finally got my hands on Blood in the Mist by Hope Merles. I don't know if I said that right. I hope I did. Neil Gaiman has called this a little golden miracle of a book, which was reason enough for me to pick it up. And this book is said to have inspired Tolkien when he wrote The Hobbit. It is a cozy fantasy tale about the relationship between fairyland and ordinary life. Very elegant writing that's also whimsical. In addition to fairies, it follows a storyline that is very Agatha Christie in the way that this taboo fairy fruit keeps showing up in town. People eat this fruit and then go a little bit crazy, and then our very British heroes must figure out how and why this keeps happening. I'm so excited to read this one. If a book starts with A Lady's Guide to something and something, I want to read it. So I'm welcoming to the family A Lady's Guide to Marvels and Misadventure by Angela Bell. I love this cover. I've seen it described as the Nutcracker meets Around the World in 80 Days, but with Victorian steampunk vibes, with a very generous dose of cozy and whimsy. If I know those things, I don't need to know what it's about. I just know I want to read it. I plan on going into this one blind, so I'm not reading the synopsis, but if that sounds interesting to you too, you can definitely go check it out on Goodreads or Amazon and read the synopsis. I hope it's gonna be really good. And then this is a book that I am currently reading. It is The Bells of Waterloo by Alice Church. What I loved immediately about starting this book is that it's written by a historian and based on a real family from letters that were exchanged between family members and their family friends. This is like a very cozy, family-friendly version, if you know what I mean, of Bridgerton. It's about these three sisters, Maria, Georgie, and Harriet, and right as the start of the London season is about to begin, their parents completely uproot them and make the long journey to Brussels because their father is broke and they're starting to become known in London society as this family who the husband gambles, are starting to be kind of looked down upon. They want to create a new life for themselves in Brussels. They had hoped that there would be a lot of other families there from London, and the girls are especially excited to see a lot of men from London stationed there with the militia. And of course, they're all looking for husbands. But as the war starts to brew outside the city walls, the girls not only find themselves, but possibly husbands along the way. It's just such a lovely place for my head to go when I'm feeling a little stressed. I'm making my way through it very slowly for that very reason, because I want to stay here with these characters. I love these girls. I love their family. It has been the best time. You may have seen this book in a couple of my previous videos. I just got it recently. I am obsessed with the cover. This is Godmersham Park by Jill Hornby. Jill Hornby wrote Miss Austen, which I also loved. It was a little melancholy for me, but the writing was beautiful, and anything about Jane Austen I will read and generally enjoy. This is based on a true story from 1804 following the governess Anne Sharp and her friendship with Henry and Jane Austen. That's really all I know about it. I think it's going to be really beautiful. I'm hoping maybe a little less melancholy than Miss Austen, but either way, I know I'm gonna enjoy it. And then last year I read A Lady's Guide to Fortune Hunting by Sophie Irwin, and I loved it so much. So I had to pick up her newest novel, A Lady's Guide to Scandal. It's about Eliza, who marries this Earl of Somerset. And it is like the match of the season, the match of all matches, but he is 20 years her senior and not the match that Eliza would have wanted for herself. Fast forward 10 years and Eliza is widowed, therefore making her titled and rich and free and in control of her own life for the first time ever. She's been living her whole life according to the societal expectations, but now has resolved that she is going to live on her own terms. And what she wants is to head to Bath with her cousin Margaret, pursue painting, learn to drive, and flirt with Bath's most alluring new resident, the infamous Lord Melville. But when Eliza's behavior reaches her late husband's nephew, who broke Eliza's heart years and years ago, Eliza starts to realize that maybe her freedom doesn't come without its consequences. The only way to keep her fortune might be for her to avoid all scandal. But where's the fun in that? And after loving her first book, I can't wait to start this one. That concludes this spring book haul. I hope that maybe you got some recommendations for books to add to your spring TBR. I will keep you updated with my thoughts as I read these. Instagram is where I usually share books that I love and I'm raving about. And my Patreon is where I share all recommendations for every book that I read the previous month. So if you want to follow all of my book reviews, you can join my Flower Fairy tier on Patreon. I hope spring is treating you well with kindness. Fingers crossed for warm weather soon. I'm jealous of those of you who live somewhere where it's already warm. For now, I will get lost in my books. I am sending you all my love. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful for you. I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye, friends.